Hello, this is Edward Kilpatrick, the erudite Conophile, and today I wanted to review a play which I had recently both read and seen for the first time. I'd heard about it before, but I'd never really looked into it. The play is Edward Albee's 2002 work, The Goat, or Who is Sylvia? And it's also called Notes on Defining a Tragedy, or something like that. So I wanted to give a brief review of it and some things which I think are relevant to the argument of whether bestiality is morally permissible or not. But first, a little background on the play itself. The play is basically about a middle-aged architect by the name of Martin, who falls in love with a goat late in life. And the whole play is basically revolves around the consequences of his revelation of that fact to his closest friends and family. And since it's a tragedy, you can guess that it ends badly for him. But I won't reveal the ending here because, well, you can read the play yourself or you can watch it on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description. So, before we go on to a few quotes from the play itself, which demonstrate certain arguments for and against bestiality, I need to go through the characters. There is, of course, Martin, who is the main character of the play, a successful and happily married architect. There's his wife, Stevie, who is charming and intelligent and faithful and all the things you would want a wife to be. There's their son, Billy, who is intelligent, openly gay, but they don't really seem to mind, so it's alright. And then there's Ross, Martin's best friend, who's a little crude when it comes to his sense of humor, but otherwise he means well, generally. Granted, I'm using their descriptions at the beginning of the play. By the time the play is over, they all have something against them. Although I won't reveal specifics here, let's just say that they're all culpable to one degree or another for their actions. So, I'm going to pick one quote from each scene. There are 3 scenes in the play, don't worry, it'll be short. And I'm going to elaborate on what the quote has to do with bestiality in general. And also, at the end, I'll describe some of the stereotypes that this play sort of reinforces, but that's to be expected in a mainstream thing like this. So, scene 1. Now, to set up this quote, Martin has been very absent-minded in the first scene, for most of it. He's been acting very distracted, and his friend Ross asks him about it. And essentially, he confesses that he's fallen in love. He then describes the process of falling in love with Sylvia, the goat. And here's the quote. "You don't understand. I didn't know what it was, what I was feeling. It wasn't anything like I'd felt before. It was so amazing, so extraordinary. There she was, just looking at me with those eyes of hers." This, to me, is a very honest description of the sensation of falling in love. There's no real rational basis for falling in love. You just have this emotional attraction to a certain individual, and whether that individual is of your species or not, you have to deal with that somehow. Martin deals with it by having an affair and ruining his marriage. Well, he can't be said to ruin his marriage entirely, but it doesn't end well for him. After this, Martin eventually confesses that the relationship with Sylvia is sexual and that Sylvia is a goat, which leads to the bad consequences throughout the rest of the play. Moving on to scene 2, which is about a day later. Stevie finds out from Ross about the affair with Sylvia and does not take it well. She has a lot of objections to his affair with a goat, mostly on the basis that it is a goat and not a person. And I think the following quote encapsulates her feelings on the matter quite nicely. This is Stevie speaking. Fall out of love with me? Fine! No, not fine, but that can be fixed. Time, whatever. But tell me you love me and an animal. Both of us. Equally. The same way? That you go from my bed, our bed. It's amazing, you know, how good we are? Still, how we please each other and ourselves so fully, so fresh each time? You go from our bed, wash your dick, get in your car and go to her, and do with her what I cannot imagine myself imagining. Or worse, that you come from her to my bed, to our bed. What I want you for. Basically, she hates that she feels that his being with an animal has somehow demeaned her, has put her on the same level of an animal, and therefore lower. This view is called human exceptionalism, and I'm sorry to say that the facts do not back up this view, really. I mean, yes, human beings are better than most animals at a variety of different things, mostly intellectual and social tasks. But this doesn't make us on another plane from animals. This doesn't make us naturally superior to them, except by our own metrics, which are quite easily biased in our favor, as would be expected. So, I can understand why she feels how she does, but it's just not the right reaction to this sort of thing. I mean, really, the bad thing to me is that he got married and then he started having an affair with a goat. If he had talked to his wife about it beforehand, if he had done something about it, sure, she wouldn't have been happy with him, but at least she wouldn't break down the way she does here. Well, finally comes scene 3, and this is after Stevie has already left. By the way, I'm not going to go into the ending here. I'll just say it's a tragedy, and it ends on a very, I won't say a sad note, because really it's hard to believe how it happened exactly. But anyway, during this scene, Ross returns, and he justifies his telling Sylvia about the affair by pointing out that people would find out about it eventually. And Martin responds to that in the following way. Is that what it is then? That people will know? That people will find out? That I can do whatever I want, and that's what matters? That people will find out? Fuck the thing itself. Fuck what it means. That people will find out? Taking society's disgust at an action and using that as a moral argument is not a very good moral argument. It just means that you shouldn't tell people about it, because they will impose negative consequences on you. It does not mean, by any stretch of the imagination, that you shouldn't do a thing. By the way, the same arguments can be made for homosexuality, or pegging, or wearing polyester of a certain color. There are plenty of things which people are, in general, disgusted by. That doesn't make them immoral. That just makes them things which most people wouldn't want to do. But unless you have a real argument that it causes actual harm to those involved, I don't see why their disgust should stop me or anybody else from doing what we please. If there are other reasons why we shouldn't have sex with animals? Fine. Let me know. I'd love to hear them so that I can stop this freaking crusade and basically try to be normal. I'll be unhappy if I do that, but at least I'll know that what I thought before was unjustified, if it was. I think I am justified, but whatever. So that's it for the quotes. All in all, it's a very sad tale. And basically, obviously, the character I sympathize the most with is Martin, because he's fallen in love. It's a wonderful thing, but nobody he talks to seems to think that it's a good thing. Not his son, not his wife, not his best friend. He even goes to a support group for, let's say, recovering bestialists, and finds out that they have certain stereotypical traits. If you've been watching my series on Connie Miletsky's book, Understanding Bestiality and Zoophilia, you might know that whether it's from Kinsey's research or from psychological theories regarding the origins of zoophilia, there are a number of different ways in which people supposedly become zoophiles in the public eye, and they're all represented in this group. The group isn't explicitly shown. I mean, Martin just tells us about it. But in the group, we have a man who has sex with very young pigs, a man who has sex with geese, a couple of women who have sex with dogs, including one with a German Shepherd who is a victim of incest and rape, and basically there are a lot of stereotypes there, but at least the thing is being presented in a way. At least it's not being made the butt of a joke, but is in fact being taken a little seriously. Now, I know that people snicker when they see this play, and given the subject matter, that's what I expect. But I think this is a good first step to a conversation on whether this is actually wrong. I mean, hell, if you really think that this is wrong, Stevie in the second scene gives about a dozen arguments. I don't know about a dozen, but plenty of arguments against bestiality. I mean, all of the secular ones that I know about, well, maybe not all, but most, of the secular arguments I know about are represented by Stevie's reaction to this thing. So if you want some ammunition to use against bestialists, use that, but I'm warning you that it is an appeal to emotion, essentially. And that if you think these are good arguments just because this woman is upset over her husband having an affair, then I'm not sure how you're determining whether an argument is good. So that's it for this video. I'm still working on compiling the data from Honey Miletsky's book, and I hope to get another video out this weekend on that. So until then, this is the Erudite Tunophile, signing off.